Why, hello, advanced band drummers. I hope you guys are having a decent time at home. I miss you guys. I wish we could be together, but unfortunately we can't. So, what I've decided to do is try and sit down and put together a couple of lessons for everybody. And this is the first advanced band drumming lesson. So, what we're going to do is what you need to have, just hopefully you have a pair of drumsticks at home. Hopefully, you have your drum, and hopefully, you have um, a stand and a music stand and all those things. But if you don't, that's okay. All you really need are sticks. And what I've done, if you notice, I've got my little table here. Oh, dropped a stick. Shocking. I've got a table here, and then I've got a mouse pad. I'm going to put the mouse pad on there, and then I'm going to use my sticks on that. So this should work fine. And the reason I'm doing this, I have a drum with me, but I don't have a stand, and it's really hard to get you guys to kind of see what I'm doing on the head, if you will. So for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this mouse pad as my drum head. So remember, I'm standing up, or I'm happen to be sitting, but I'm going to try and sit up straight, keep my hands in the right position, hold your stick the right way, look at the way I'm holding it, right, with my thumb kind of right on my first finger, right? You guys all should know how to do this, holding it the right way. We should be in good shape. And then when I'm hitting it, I can actually do double strokes and all kinds of things. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try and give you a lesson on this. And what we're going to do is I want you to look for your book. I know the red book, Tradition of Excellence. And if you don't have it, see if you can email me, and I will try and email you out some of the pages as we're doing them. We're going to start on page 26. That's what we're going to do today, and we're going to work on a couple of things. The first thing that we're going to do on page 106 is number 101. Number 101 is called the warm-up chop builders. And if you notice, it's actually 8 measures, right? There's 2 lines there. It's actually highlighted, and we're going to play the snare drum part. That's what we're all going to try and do. So what I want you to really focus on is the 16th notes. That's basically what we're talking about here. And I'm going to put a metronome on, which is usually what I do. I'm snapping my fingers and stuff like that. So I'm going to put the metronome on, and then what we're going to do is we're going to try and play this part. And we're going to go by, if you notice, the first 4 measures are the same as the last 4 measures. The big difference is the stickings are changed around, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to try and follow the stickings, and I want you to try and stay in time. Okay, so I'm going to put the metronome on really slow. What we got here? I've got it on about 58. So every quarter note is 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See how right in time I am? So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at this number 101, the warm-up, and we're going to look at that first measure of rhythms. And all it is 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Super easy. 8th note on the way down, and then 2 16th notes on the way up. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Right? So now make sure you're accenting the first beat of every one of those notes, and we should be in good shape. And then if you look at the stickings, it actually doesn't alternate. If you notice, it's 2 strokes with your left hand, right? So it's right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left. And try and play along with me while I'm doing this. You can rewind it. That's why I'm leaving the metronome on, so you can kind of see exactly how fast we're going. So I'm going to do that first measure one more time. Here we go. I'm going to use the correct stickings. Look at how close my sticks stay as well, right? We don't want our sticks way up here. We want to keep them down, right? So here we go. Here's the first measure. 1, 2, ready, go. Right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left. Super easy. Not too far up. Keep them down, right? If you look at the next measure, measure 2 is 1 and 2E and a 3, 4E and a, right? Let me say it again. Ready, go. 1 and 2E and a 3, 4E and a. Okay, so now what we have is, now we're going to do that same thing, but we're going to use the correct stickings. And the stickings are right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, right. And if you look at the 2 groups of 16th notes on beat 2 and on beat 4, you have the same stickings. It's right, left, right, right. And then on beat 4, right, left, right, right. So we just do the stickings correct, we should be in good shape. So I'm going to do the first 2 measures now, okay? Here we go, first 2 measures. Ready, go. Right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, right. And that's how it works. I'm right with the metronome, keeping my sticks down, reading the rhythm, right? Reading the rhythm while I'm playing it, right? Saying it while I'm playing it. So, if you notice, the next two measures are exactly the same rhythm as the first two measures. So I'm not going to, oh no, I'm sorry, they're not. The third measure is a little different. The third measure is similar to the first measure. And the second measure is exactly the same as the fourth. So let me just look at that third measure for a second so we can make sure that we're playing the rhythm right. The third measure is 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and. So that last beat is unlike the last beat of the first measure. That last beat is just regular eighth note. So we should be pretty good with that. So let me say that third measure again. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and. So that is super easy, right? So if I play that with the correct stickings now they're starting with your left hand. So now what we have is left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right. Super easy, okay? The next measure is the same as the second measure. And then as we go, measure 5 is the same as measure 3. And measure 7 is the same as measure 3. So measures 1, 3, 5, and 7 are the same or similar. The only thing that's different is measure 1 has beat 4, 4 and a on it. And then measures 2, 4, 6, and 8 are all exactly the same. Okay? Now the difference between the first 4 measures and the second 4 measures really is the sticking. If you notice the sticking in the left and the second 4 measures 4 to 8, it starts on the right. Oh no, actually, it's very similar sticking too. It's almost the same thing twice is basically what they're doing. So that's great. Let's see if we can play through this whole thing. All 8 measures up. I'm going to do it really slow. I'm going to slow it down a little bit so that we're a little more comfortable with it. Okay, here we go. So here we go. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. Right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, 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 left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right. There it is. Super easy. I don't really care how fast it is as long as it's correct. As long as you can figure out in your mind, then when you're playing this stuff, it isn't so bad. It isn't so hard. So, nice job with that, everybody. That's a hard little piece. So that was the first thing that I wanted to work on. The next thing that I wanted to work on with you guys is if you look at the top of the page where it says percussion technique, we have what's called a 9-stroke roll. I'm just going to read what it is there really quickly. And it says, for multiple bounce strokes, 16th notes, and a single stroke at the end creates a sustained SD sound for the duration of the quarter note. One of the 40 PAS International Drum Rudiments. See drums, page 47. If you look at page 47, which I will, you will see all of the rudiments. Okay, well, not all of them, but a bunch of rudiments on that page, and that's what they're referring to. So if you ever want to look at this page and kind of get some more information about drumming and sticks and stuff and just the rudiments, it's on that back page. So we're going to talk about this one. If you look underneath where it says 9-stroke roll on page 26, what you will see is that it says written, and then it says primary strokes, and then it says played. And what it said, what it's written as, a 9-stroke roll is written as a quarter note that's tied to another quarter note, and it's got the roll sign on it. The one next to it with the L's over it just means it's the same thing, but you're left-handed a 9-stroke roll. The first one is a 9-stroke roll with your right hand, which is why it says R. And the one next to it is the left hand 9-stroke roll. Underneath where it says written, now it says primary strokes. And what that means is it's trying to show you that the underlying rhythm for this roll is 16th notes. Okay? So when you're playing this, if you think 16th notes and you do the strokes the right way, it will come out as a roll. Okay, so underneath that it says played, right? And what it means by that is the way that you play a 9-stroke roll is to essentially do Z's on 16th notes and then hit a quarter note on in your right hand, right? On that, or in your left hand if it's a left hand stroke. So what they're saying is all of those three, the written one, the primary strokes, and the played, are all the same thing. They all sound exactly the same. Well, I'm sorry, the written and the played are exactly the same. The primary strokes are just showing you like the underlying rhythm on it. So what it should sound like if you're doing this, a 9-stroke roll, it's 4 quarter notes, 4 16th notes and a quarter note. So 4 16th notes and a quarter note. So I'm going to put the metronome on. I'm going to turn it a little faster this time so it's easier to kind of hear the roll. Those are 16th notes. And now what we're going to do is we're going to play those 16th notes with a quarter note. So 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take those 16th notes and we're going to put double strokes on them. Now remember, a double stroke is when you move your hand down and the tip of the stick hits twice. So instead of going 1 and or 1 E, this is a double stroke is one movement of your stick, but it hits twice. I'm not going, right? I'm not hitting it twice. I'm hitting it twice with one movement. And I do that with both hands. So if I do them together, so that's the essence. We're doing 16th notes with Z's or double strokes. Notice that my arms aren't moving, but my sticks are moving. My wrists are really making the roll. So now when I add the metronome on there, I've got my 16th notes. And now I'm going to add the double strokes. One E and a 2. 1 E and a 2. So that's a 9-stroke roll because what they mean by 9-stroke roll is the 16th notes are 4 and they've got double strokes on them, so that makes them 8, and then the last quarter note makes it 9, right? So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. 2 4 6 8 9. 2 4 6 8 9. Right? So if I do it quicker, that's what's going on. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to speed the metronome up a little bit. So now when we hear the roll, it's going to, and then when we hear the bounce strokes, it's going to sound like a roll. Super easy. So now what we're going to do is I want you to look all the way over on the next page. I'm sorry, the same page. I want you to look at the bottom of the page, and I want you to look at number 106. 106 is a drums private lesson. And really what it is it basically has the stickings written above these notes, and it's basically showing you how to do this 9-stroke roll, right? So the first thing it does is the underlying primary strokes, essentially. Right, left, right, right. I'm sorry, right, left, right, left, right. And then in beat 3 on number 106 of measure 1 of 106, it does the Z's. And then beat 4 is a quarter note. So what it's saying is number 106, measure 1, is 1 E and a 2, and then it does the same thing with Z's. 1 E and a 2, or 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4. That's basically what's going on. The next measure, measure 2, is this almost the same thing, except if you notice, beat 3 is written as a 9-stroke roll would be written. That is to say, it's written just with those 3 little lines going through the stem, and underneath it, it shows you the same thing that you see on beat 3 of measure 1, which is the 16th notes with the Z's, right? So what it's trying to show you is that measure 1 and measure 2 are exactly the same thing. Where measure 1 is right, left, right, right, Z, 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 right. Measure 2 is right, left, right, Z, 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 right. That's all it is, right? So they're just showing you that that's the way that's written. That's what that beat 3 with those 3 little slashes is. And then if you look at the next 2 measures, it's exactly the same rhythm. 1E and a 2, 3E and a 4, 1E and a 2, 3E and a 4. And if you notice, measures 3 and 4 just have different stickings, whereas measures 1 and 2 have right stickings. Measure 3 and 4 are really showing you the left stickings, right? So everything starts on the left hand. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go really slow, and then we're going to speed it up. So I'm going to turn the metronome down. Try and play along with me. So this is going to be 1E and a 2, 3E and a 4. Here we go. We're going to play the entire thing. Try and play along with me. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. So, not bad, right? It's not so hard once you kind of dig into it a little bit and try and plan it. And so, what you'll notice now it doesn't really sound like a roll. I mean, it kind of does a little bit, but not really the way that we want it to sound yet. So, what we're going to do is we're going to speed the metronome up now that we can kind of play it that way. And, go back and look at this video and go back to what we just did and redo it until you're really comfortable playing it. That's the beauty of having a video. You can just keep going over and over and over this stuff. You know what I mean? So try doing that. So hold on. Here, now that I've got a little faster, I'm going to even go, let's leave it there. So that's how fast this is. Now here we go. Measure 1. Keep your stickings correct. Here we go. Measure 1 on number 106. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, so that's basically how that works, and we're doing a pretty good job with that. Nice job. Keep working on this stuff. Before I move on, I just want you to know that, I know that you're not going to get every single thing on this lesson, and I know that some of it's going to be hard, and I know you're not going to be practicing every hour of every day, while you're kind of in lockdown. My hope is that you just do the best that you can, and I don't want you to worry about it. I don't want you to feel bad. I just want you to do the best that you can, to have a good time with this, try and enjoy it, and just keep working on this stuff. Keep pushing forward. Keep doing this stuff. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And then, when we get back in the fall, everything will be cool. You'll just jump right into this stuff. It'll be easy, just like when you won't even remember that you missed this stuff. So just play this a little bit. Just when you if you try and do it like 10 minutes a day, or every other day or something like that, that'll help you. It'll start to really help you out. So that's kind of what I want you to do. And I don't want you to worry about it. I don't want you to freak out like, oh my God, I got to get like all of this stuff done. Do the best you can with this stuff. That's all it is. The best that you can do. This is all I can ever ask from you guys. So, and all I've ever asked of you guys. So anyway, the next thing I want you to look at is I want you to kind of go back into number 103. All right, hold on one second. Let's do one thing. All right. So if you look at number 103, what you'll notice is it has, let's see, we're going to look at the snare drum part, obviously. It's the first thing I want you to notice is that it's in 2/4. Okay. So that means every measure has 2 beats in it. You guys should know that. And if you notice, the first 2 measures are all 8th notes, right? So what we have is super easy. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Super easy. If I put the metronome on, it's going to be really easy. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Super easy, right? So try and play that with me. Here we go. Just the first 2 measures. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Notice there's no stickings on it. I don't care what you use. I'd like you to alternate. That's probably the best way. But what I really care about at this point is the rhythm, because that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on right here. So if you look at the third measure has the first 3 8th notes tied together. And what that means is we are not going to play. We're going to count in our head 1 and 2 and. But if you notice, the only ones that they want you to play are the first one and the last one. So you're going to play 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. And if I'm going to take this measure, I'm going to put it really slow for a minute. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go a lot faster. I'm going to make this like eighth notes. 1 and 2 and. So this is what I'm hearing in my head when I'm playing. I'm hearing 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. And that third measure is having me play on the first beat and the first eighth note and the last eighth note. So 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. And that's how that measure is going to work. So if I play, the first two measures are 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. The third measure is 1 and 2 and. Super easy. So now I'm going to play the first three measures with this metronome, playing every eighth note. So watch. Ready, go. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. All right? So I want you to try and play that. And I want you to look at the next measure, measure 4. If you look at measure 4 is exactly the same as measure 3. It doesn't look that way because it's written differently. What they're trying to show you is when you have the 4 eighth notes, right, 1 and 2 and, what they're doing is they've tied the first 3 together in measure 3, correct? But now what they're doing is they're tying the first 2 together and making it a quarter note. And then they're taking that third eighth note and also tying it together. So essentially, it's the same rhythm as measure 3. Whereas measure 3, they took all 4 eighth notes and they combined the first 3. In measure 4, they take the first 2 eighth notes and make them a quarter note, and then they tie that eighth note to that, which means it's the same rhythm. They're showing you the same thing written 2 different ways, right? So if we look at that now, what that means is, we go back to our measure. These are eighth notes, 1 and 2 and. So if we have our measure 1 is 1 and 2 and. Measure 2 is 1 and 2 and. Measure 3 is, now this is where it ties it up, 1 and 2 and. And then measure 4 is 1 and 2 and. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to play all 4 of those measures in a row now. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. If you notice, I never stopped saying 1 and 2 and. I never stopped saying those eighth notes over there, right? So now, what I want you to notice is that measure 3 and measure 4 are exactly the same thing, right? They're written differently, but they sound exactly the same. Well, measure 5 is a dotted quarter note, and a dotted quarter note is a quarter note and an eighth note. Now, a quarter note is 2 eighth notes tied together, and as you may have guessed, a dotted quarter note is 3 eighth notes tied together. So what they're saying is that measure 5 is the same thing as measures 3 and 4. So even though 3 is 3 eighth notes tied together, and measure 4 is a quarter note tied together and then the eighth note, measure 5 is a dotted quarter note, which means a quarter note plus an eighth note, which is the same as 3 eighth notes tied together. You understand? Hopefully you do. So what that means is, another way of saying that is that measure 5 is played exactly the same as measure 4 and measure 3. And if you look at measure 6, it's also played exactly the same as measure 5 and measure 4 and measure 3. And measure 7 is the same as measure 6 and measure 5 and measure 4 and measure 3. The only thing that's different is the last measure, measure 8. It's just a quarter note and then a quarter rest. Super easy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try and play through the whole thing. Okay? Here we go. Remember, a lot of these rhythms are the same, and I'm putting eighth notes in here. Here we go. Ready? These are eighth notes. 1 and 2 and ready, go. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and rest. So now what I'm going to do, the last thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put this a lot slower, and I'm going to make it quarter notes. So now instead of the metronome playing 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, I'm going to think that in my head. So I'm going to think 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now I'm going to play exactly the same thing from the beginning of this song, number 103, to the end. It's going to sound exactly the same. The only difference is you're not going to hear the metronome playing every eighth note. You're going to have to think of that in your head. It's called subdivided, which we've talked about. So hopefully you know this. So here we go. Try and play this with me. Number 103, dotted quarters is the name of it. 1, 2, ready and go. 1 and 2 and 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 1 rest. All right. So that is how that works, and I hope you guys had a good time today. I wish I could see you, and I'm sure that's coming fairly soon. Hopefully, before the summer, but maybe after the summer. Who knows? And either way, I look forward to seeing you guys. Please make the most of these videos as you can, and I'm going to make some more as soon as I cycle through all the different instrument groups that I have, and I have many, so kind of bear with me. Do the best you can. You can find me on YouTube with this stuff, and enjoy yourselves and have a good time. And don't play too many video games, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.